Welcome back to the channel. What if the smallest coin you have ever ignored, slipped into a drawer, tossed into a jar, or left forgotten in your pocket could secretly be worth more money than luxury mansions, supercars, and entire businesses combined? Because the 1987 1-cent USA coin is one of those shocking pieces of American history that proves ordinary objects can carry extraordinary value. And this story begins in a year when America was changing fast, technology was accelerating, the stock market was booming, and yet quietly inside the Denver Mint, a single cent was being produced that would later ignite rumors, legends, auction wars, and dreams of instant wealth, making collectors, historians, and everyday people question everything they thought they knew about pennies, because while millions of 1987 Lincoln cents were minted for daily use, a microscopic fraction emerged with ultra-rare characteristics, mysterious mint errors, perfect preservation, and historical coincidences that pushed its legendary valuation to a jaw-dropping $32 million, a number that sounds impossible until you understand how rarity, condition, demand, and storytelling collide in the world of elite coin collecting, where one tiny difference can separate pocket change from generational wealth. And the 1987 penny is fascinating because it sits at the crossroads of modern minting technology and old-school craftsmanship, created during a time when copper-plated zinc coins were replacing the heavy copper cents of the past, meaning any deviation in metal composition, strike pressure, die alignment, or planchet quality instantly became a red flag for experts, and rumors began circulating decades later about a handful of 1987 cents struck on the wrong planchet, some allegedly retaining higher copper content, others showing off-center strikes, doubled dies, and mirror-like surfaces that rival proof coins despite being intended for circulation. And as these coins quietly disappeared into collections, vaults, and private estates, their myth only grew stronger, fueled by auction records where seemingly small errors sold for thousands, then hundreds of thousands, creating a logical path toward the idea that a flawless, unique, historically verified specimen could command millions, especially in a market where billionaires compete for singular artifacts that nobody else on Earth can own. And the Lincoln Memorial design itself adds emotional power, because Abraham Lincoln represents resilience, unity, and American identity, turning the penny into more than money but a symbol, and when symbolism meets scarcity, value explodes, making the 1987 penny a perfect storm of history, metal, timing, and human obsession, and collectors often whisper about one specific example graded at the absolute top of the scale, untouched by circulation. Perfectly centered, blazing red in color, with a strike so sharp that every detail looks alive, combined with a verified mint anomaly that should not exist according to official records, which is exactly the kind of contradiction that makes collectors open their wallets without hesitation, because in numismatics the impossible is priceless, and the Denver Mint mark adds another layer of intrigue, as Denver coins are known for strong strikes, meaning a flawless example becomes even more visually stunning, and when such a coin appears, even once, it rewrites price expectations across the entire hobby, pushing values upward for every related coin, causing people worldwide to dig through jars, inheritances, and old rolls searching for that one miracle cent. And beyond the technical aspects, the story of the 1987 penny reflects a deeper human truth, that wealth can hide in plain sight, that patience and curiosity can turn the overlooked into the extraordinary, and that history often leaves breadcrumbs for those willing to look closely. And this is why online searches for rare pennies, valuable Lincoln cents, coin era values, and million-dollar coins continue to explode, because hope is a powerful currency, and every new generation of collectors brings fresh demand, especially in the digital age where a single viral video can transform a forgotten coin into a global sensation overnight. And when people hear $32 million attached to a 1-cent coin, disbelief turns into fascination. Fascination turns into research, and research turns into action, which is exactly how legends grow. And even if only one or two examples truly deserve such a mythical valuation, the ripple effect elevates the entire category, making the 1987 penny a modern icon in the world of rare coins, a reminder that history does not always shout, sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a jar, waiting for the right moment to be heard, and as auction houses, grading services, and elite collectors continue to document, verify, and debate these coins, the story remains alive, evolving, and increasingly valuable, not just in dollars but in inspiration, because every collector remembers the first time they realized a coin could be more than change, it could be a treasure, a story, a dream, and the 1980 71-cent USA coin stands as proof that even in a modern world flooded with mass production, true rarity still exists, hiding where few people bother to look. So if you have ever wondered whether checking your coins is worth the effort, this story answers with a resounding yes, because the next legendary discovery could already be in your hands. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most shocking penny stories in American history and want more unbelievable coin secrets, rare money legends, and hidden value stories, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss the next incredible discovery. Next, 1962 1-cent USA coin. Imagine discovering that a humble brown penny from the early 1960s, a coin most people would never glance at twice, could secretly represent a staggering $39 million fortune, because the 1962 1-cent USA coin carries one of the most fascinating and emotionally charged stories in American numismatic history. A story where ordinary change transforms into extraordinary wealth through rarity, timing, perfection, and human obsession, and it all begins in an era when America was standing at the edge of massive cultural change. The post-war boom was fading into a new modern age, and the U.S. Mint was still producing solid copper pennies that felt heavier, richer, and more substantial than the zinc cents that would come later, making every Lincoln cent from this period a physical artifact of a different America. And the 1962 penny stands out because it was struck at a moment when production numbers were high but true perfection was incredibly rare, meaning that while millions were made, only a microscopic number survived in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, free from microscopic flaws, and displaying blazing red luster that looks as fresh today as the moment it left the press. And in the elite world of coin collecting, perfection is everything, because a single hairline scratch, a weak strike, or a tiny discoloration can reduce value dramatically, while absolute flawlessness can elevate a common coin into legendary status. And whispers among advanced collectors have long spoken about a handful of 1962 cents with extraordinary qualities, including ultra-sharp strikes, full design details, and mysterious mint anomalies that should not statistically exist, such as doubled dies so subtle they require expert magnification, or planchets with unusual metal purity that test outside normal mint specifications, creating a sense of mystery that fuels demand and speculation. And when mystery meets money, values explode. Especially when those coins are authenticated and graded at the highest possible level by top grading services. Because once a coin is officially recognized as the finest known example, it becomes untouchable, a trophy piece that wealthy collectors will fight over regardless of price. And the Lincoln portrait itself adds powerful emotional weight, because Abraham Lincoln symbolizes perseverance, unity, and moral strength, turning the penny into a national icon rather than just currency. And when that symbolism combines with extreme rarity and immaculate preservation, the result is a coin that transcends its face value entirely, becoming more like a historical relic or fine art than money. And the $39 million valuation associated with the most extraordinary 1962 penny is not just about metal or age, but about narrative, because collectors are not merely buying copper. They are buying the right to own a singular story, a moment in American minting history frozen in perfect condition. And this is why the 1962 cent has quietly climbed the ranks of modern numismatic legends, inspiring collectors worldwide to search through old rolls, inherited collections, and forgotten jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. And beyond the technical aspects, this coin reflects a deeper human truth, that value is often hidden in plain sight, overlooked because it appears ordinary, and only revealed to those willing to look closer. And this idea resonates powerfully in today's world, where people crave stories of transformation and discovery, fueling viral searches for rare pennies, valuable Lincoln cents, and $1 million coins. and each new auction record or discovery adds fuel to the fire, reinforcing the belief that even modern-era coins can achieve unimaginable worth under the right conditions. And the 1962 penny also represents the final chapter of an era when copper still ruled American coinage, making it especially desirable to collectors who value material authenticity and historical continuity. And as copper prices rise and older coins disappear into private vaults, demand continues to increase, creating a perfect storm where scarcity grows while interest multiplies, and this relentless upward pressure explains why elite collectors and investors see top-tier Lincoln cents not just as collectibles but as alternative assets, stores of value immune to inflation and market volatility. And when you combine financial strategy with emotional storytelling, prices can soar to levels that sound unreal to the average person, yet feel completely justified within the closed circles of high-end numismatics. And the legend of the $39 million 1962 penny continues to evolve, debated, analyzed, and amplified across forums, videos, and collector conventions, because legends thrive on curiosity, and curiosity drives action, and action drives markets. And even if only one example ever truly reaches that mythical valuation, the ripple effect elevates every related coin, turning a once-forgotten year into one of the most searched and discussed in penny collecting history, reminding us that history does not always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it hides quietly in everyday objects, waiting decades for someone to recognize its true worth. And if this story teaches us anything, it is that attention, patience, and curiosity can unlock value where none seems to exist. And the next life-changing discovery might already be sitting in a drawer, unnoticed, underestimated, and ready to rewrite someone's future. So if stories like this ignite your imagination and make you want to look twice at the change in your pocket, don't forget to like this and subscribe for more unbelievable coin stories, hidden money legends, and shocking discoveries that prove even a single penny can change everything. Next, 1981 1-cent USA coin. What if the most ordinary penny from the early 1980s, a coin you have probably spent without thinking, dropped on the floor, or ignored in a dusty jar, could secretly represent a jaw-dropping $27 million fortune? Because the 1981 1-cent USA coin stands as one of the most fascinating modern money legends ever whispered in the world of rare coins. A story that proves age alone does not define value and that even relatively recent history can hide unbelievable wealth. And to understand why this single cent has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, you must return to a time when America was in transition, inflation was reshaping everyday life, technology was beginning to redefine the future, and the U.S. Mint itself was undergoing one of the most important changes in its long history, the shift away from solid copper pennies toward copper-plated zinc. A transition that turned 1981 into a critical crossover year, a year where composition, experiments, die adjustments, and production pressure created the perfect environment for rare anomalies to slip through unnoticed. And while millions of 1981 pennies were struck across different mints, only a microscopic number emerged with the precise combination of composition, strike quality, mint characteristics, and flawless preservation needed to elevate them into legendary status. Because in numismatics, rarity is not just about low mintage, it is about survival, condition, and uniqueness. And the 1981 penny exists at a crossroads where old standards collided with new methods, creating opportunities for errors, transitional pieces, and extraordinary specimens that defy expectations. And collectors have long obsessed over pennies from this period because they represent the final breaths of an era when copper still gave American cents their weight, warmth, and unmistakable feel, making any 1981 cent that tests outside normal specifications instantly fascinating. Especially those rumored to retain higher copper content or exhibit transitional characteristics that should not exist according to official mint documentation. And when a coin challenges the historical record, its value skyrockets, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying proof that history is more complex than textbooks suggest. And the $27 million valuation associated with the most exceptional 1981 penny is rooted in this very idea. The idea that somewhere, somehow, a single cent survived in absolute perfection while carrying a story no other coin can tell, a story confirmed by expert analysis, elite grading, and relentless demand from collectors who understand that true one-of-a-kind items operate outside normal price logic, and condition plays a critical role here, because a penny that circulated even briefly loses its magic, while one that remained untouched, protected from air, moisture, and handling, preserving its original luster and microscopic details, becomes a time capsule, a frozen moment from the early 1980s preserved in copper and zinc. And when such a coin is graded at the very top of the scale, recognized as the finest known example, it transforms into a trophy asset, the kind of object wealthy collectors pursue not as an investment but as a conquest, because ownership itself becomes the reward. And the Lincoln portrait adds another powerful layer, as Abraham Lincoln is not merely a historical figure, but a symbol deeply woven into American identity, resilience, and moral leadership, turning the humble penny into a miniature monument. And when symbolism intersects with rarity, emotion amplifies value, driving bidding wars that push prices into territory that sounds impossible to outsiders but feels inevitable to insiders. And the 1981 penny's story has been fueled further by the digital age, where a single viral post, video, or auction headline can ignite global interest overnight, sending millions of people searching through drawers and coin rolls, hoping to uncover a hidden miracle. And this surge of attention does more than inspire dreams, it increases demand, tightens supply, and reinforces the legend, because every new collector entering the market brings fresh competition for an already vanishing pool of top-quality coins. And beyond the technical details of metal composition, die varieties, and strike quality, the 1981 penny resonates because it represents possibility, the idea that extraordinary value can hide within ordinary life, that something dismissed as worthless can quietly grow into a treasure beyond imagination. And this message resonates deeply in uncertain times, when people crave stories of unexpected fortune and quiet transformation. And as auction houses, grading services, and private collectors continue to analyze and debate the finest known 1981 cents, the myth grows stronger, not weaker, because legends thrive on mystery, and mystery fuels markets. And even if only one or two specimens ever justify the mythical $27 million figure, the ripple effect elevates the entire year, making 1981 one of the most searched and discussed dates in modern penny collecting. And this ongoing fascination ensures that the story remains alive, evolving with each new discovery, rumor, or record-breaking sale, reminding us that history is not finished writing itself. It continues to unfold in the smallest details, sometimes literally in the palm of your hand. And the deeper lesson behind the 1981 penny is not just about money, it is about attention, patience, and curiosity, the willingness to look closer at what others ignore, because value often hides where convenience and habit tell us not to look. And whether or not you ever find a penny worth millions, the act of searching connects you to history, craftsmanship, and the enduring human desire to discover meaning in everyday objects. And that is why the legend of the 1981 1-cent USA coin continues to captivate collectors, dreamers, and storytellers alike, proving that even in a world of mass production and digital currency, a single physical coin can still carry mystery, power, and life-changing potential. So if this unbelievable story made you look twice at the change in your pocket and sparked your curiosity about hidden money and rare coin secrets, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss another shocking discovery that proves even 1 cent can be worth millions. Next, 1982 1-cent USA coin. What if one of the most confusing pennies ever made, a coin so ordinary that millions of people spent it without a second thought, could secretly be worth an astonishing $26 million, because the 1982 1-cent USA coin is not just another penny, it is one of the most dramatic turning points in American coin history. A year when the rules changed forever, when metal itself became a problem, and when chaos inside the U.S. Mint created the perfect conditions for legendary rarities to be born. And to understand why this single cent has achieved such mythical status, you must travel back to the early 1980s, a time when inflation was squeezing everyday Americans, copper prices were rising so fast that the metal inside a penny was nearly worth more than its face value, and the government faced an uncomfortable truth: that making sense out of solid copper was no longer sustainable, forcing the mint into an emergency transition that turned 1982 into one of the most complex and error-prone years in the entire history of U.S. coinage, because unlike most years, 1982 did not have just one type of penny. It had multiple compositions, multiple designs, and multiple production changes happening simultaneously, including the shift from 95% copper pennies to copper-plated zinc pennies, the removal of mint marks from some dies, the use of different hubs, and the pressure to keep coins flowing into circulation without delay. And when speed meets experimentation, mistakes happen, and in numismatics, mistakes are where legends are born, and the 1982 D penny sits right at the center of this storm, because Denver struck pennies during this chaotic transition, producing coins that look identical to the naked eye but are fundamentally different in weight, metal content, and structure, creating a situation where a penny could be common or priceless depending on what it is made of, and collectors quickly realized that weighing a 1982 penny could reveal secrets invisible to sight, because copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams while zinc pennies weigh around 2.5 grams, and this tiny difference became the key to unlocking fortunes. And among the millions struck, rumors began to circulate of extremely rare transitional errors, pennies struck on the wrong planchets, pennies with mismatched dies and compositions, pennies that should not exist according to official mint records. And when such a coin is discovered, authenticated, and preserved in perfect condition, its value moves beyond logic and into legend, and the $26 million valuation attached to the most extraordinary 1982 D penny is rooted in this unique historical chaos. Because collectors are not just paying for copper or zinc, they are paying for proof of a moment when the mint itself was struggling to adapt, leaving behind anomalies that can never be reproduced. And condition plays an enormous role here, because while millions of 1982 D pennies circulated heavily and became worn, only a microscopic number survived untouched, protected from scratches, oxidation, and handling, retaining their original luster and sharpness. And when a transitional era coin survives in absolute mint state, graded at the very top of the scale, it becomes a one-of-one treasure, the kind of object that elite collectors compete for not as an investment but as a symbol of ultimate achievement. And the Lincoln design adds powerful emotional gravity, because Abraham Lincoln is not just a portrait, he is a national icon, representing endurance, unity, and moral strength. And when that symbolism is fused with a coin born from economic pressure and industrial transition, the story becomes irresistible, turning a penny into a miniature monument to a pivotal moment in American history. And this is why the 1982 D penny has become one of the most searched and discussed coins online, fueling endless videos, forum debates, and late-night searches through coin jars, because it represents hope, the idea that something life-changing could be hiding in plain sight, overlooked simply because it looks ordinary. And in the digital age, where stories spread instantly, the legend of the $1 million penny grows faster than ever, as each new discovery, auction result, or expert analysis adds fuel to the fire, reinforcing the belief that modern-era coins can still achieve unimaginable value under the right conditions, and beyond the technical details of planchets, weights, and mint marks. The deeper appeal of the 1982 D penny lies in its message that value is not always obvious, that transformation often happens quietly, and that history leaves behind clues for those patient enough to look closely. And as copper continues to disappear from circulation and older pennies vanish into collections, demand only increases, tightening supply and pushing prices higher, especially for top-tier examples with verified transitional characteristics. And while not every 1982 D penny is worth millions, the existence of even one extraordinary specimen changes everything, elevating the entire year into legendary status and inspiring millions of people to pay attention to the smallest details of everyday life, because the difference between spare change and generational wealth can be measured in fractions of a gram. And as collectors, investors, and historians continue to debate, verify, and document these coins, the story of the 1982 D 1-cent USA coin remains alive, evolving with each passing year, proving that history is not static, it is hidden, waiting to be rediscovered, sometimes in the palm of your hand. And whether you ever find a penny worth $26 million or not, the act of searching connects you to a powerful tradition of curiosity and discovery, reminding you that extraordinary value can exist where few people bother to look. So if this unbelievable story made you want to check your change and opened your eyes to the hidden world of rare coins and money secrets, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss another shocking story that proves even a single penny can be worth millions. Next, 1988 1-cent USA coin. What if a penny from the late 1980s, a year many people still remember clearly, a coin that once bought nothing and today feels completely worthless, could secretly carry a legendary value of $23 million, because the 1988 1-cent USA coin represents one of the most quietly powerful modern money myths ever created. A story where technology, transition, perfection, and human psychology collide to transform a single cent into a symbol of unimaginable wealth, and to understand why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors around the world, you must step back into 1988, a time when America was moving rapidly toward a digital future. The Cold War was nearing its end, consumer culture was booming, and the U.S. Mint had fully embraced copper-plated zinc pennies as the new normal, meaning the heavy copper cents of earlier decades were already becoming memories. And yet this very normality is what makes the 1988 penny so dangerous and so fascinating. Because when something appears completely ordinary, it is ignored, spent, scratched, damaged, and forgotten, leaving only a microscopic number to survive in truly flawless condition. And in numismatics, survival is everything, because rarity is not only about how many were minted, it is about how many escaped damage, and the 1988 penny was produced in massive numbers, circulated heavily, and treated with total indifference, which makes a perfect example exponentially rarer than most people realize. And collectors have long known that late-date Lincoln cents are some of the hardest coins to find in top condition, because modern minting speeds create microscopic flaws, weak strikes, plating bubbles, and surface issues that prevent most coins from ever achieving absolute perfection. And when a coin from a high mintage year emerges without these problems, blazing with original luster, perfectly centered, razor sharp in every detail, it becomes something extraordinary, a statistical miracle. And this is where the legend of the $23 million 1988 penny begins, because whispers in elite collecting circles speak of a handful of specimens that combine flawless condition with subtle but undeniable mint anomalies, anomalies so rare that they challenge official expectations, including extraordinary strike pressure, unusual surface texture, microscopic double details, and plating characteristics that suggest momentary instability during production, the kind of instability that creates 1 in a billion results. And when such a coin is authenticated, encapsulated, and graded at the absolute top of the scale, it becomes untouchable, because no amount of money can create another one. And in markets driven by ego, competition, and legacy, uniqueness has no ceiling, and the Lincoln portrait itself magnifies this effect, because Abraham Lincoln is not just a face on a coin. He is a symbol deeply embedded in American identity, morality, and endurance, turning the penny into a cultural artifact rather than mere currency. And when symbolism meets perfection, value becomes emotional rather than logical, which is why elite collectors are willing to pay prices that sound insane to outsiders, because they are not buying metal, they are buying dominance, history, and the right to say they own something nobody else on earth can have. And the 1988 penny exists in a particularly powerful psychological space, because it comes from a year that feels recent, familiar, and ordinary, making the idea that it could be worth $23 million almost offensive to common sense. And yet history has proven again and again that familiarity does not protect objects from becoming rare, it accelerates their destruction, because people do not protect what they believe has no value. And this is why modern coins in perfect condition are often rarer than ancient ones. And the rise of the internet has poured gasoline on this legend, as viral videos, search trends, and online marketplaces have turned obscure coin stories into global obsessions overnight, sending millions of people digging through old jars, childhood collections, inherited boxes, and forgotten drawers, hoping to uncover a miracle hiding in plain sight. And while most will never find a coin worth millions, the existence of even one extraordinary 1988 penny reshapes perception forever. Because it proves that possibility is real, that value is not always obvious, and that history can hide in the smallest details. And as grading standards tighten, survival numbers shrink, and demand continues to rise, the pressure on top-tier examples increases relentlessly, pushing valuations higher with every passing decade, especially as wealthy collectors increasingly view rare coins as alternative assets, immune to inflation, digital risk, and market manipulation, tangible objects with fixed supply and global demand. And the 1988 penny fits perfectly into this narrative, because it represents the triumph of anomaly over mass production, of perfection over indifference, of patience over habit. And this deeper message is why the story resonates so strongly, because it mirrors a universal human truth, that extraordinary outcomes often emerge from ordinary beginnings, unnoticed until it is too late. And the legend of the $23 million 1988 1-cent USA coin continues to grow not because everyone believes they will find one, but because everyone wants to believe they could, and that belief alone is powerful enough to drive markets, shape culture, and keep the story alive year after year, reminding us that even in a world dominated by digital numbers and invisible money, a single physical coin can still carry mystery, power, and life-changing potential. So if this unbelievable story made you want to look twice at the change in your pocket and opened your eyes to the hidden world of rare coins and silent fortunes, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss another shocking money legend that proves even 1 cent can be worth millions. And as the legend of the 1988 1-cent USA coin continues to unfold, it becomes clear that its power is not limited to numbers on an auction sheet but extends into psychology, culture, and the timeless human desire to discover hidden greatness in ordinary places. Because when people hear that a penny from a year they remember personally could be worth $23 million, it challenges their understanding of value itself, forcing them to reconsider what they overlook every day. And this is where the story deepens even further, because the late 1980s marked a period when quality control at the mint faced intense pressure due to volume, speed, and efficiency, meaning coins were struck faster than ever before, dies wore down quickly, and microscopic variations slipped through unnoticed, creating conditions where a perfect strike bordered on impossible. And that impossibility is precisely what elevates the finest known 1988 pennies into legendary territory, because rarity created by neglect is far more powerful than rarity created by intention. And when collectors analyze these coins under magnification, they are not just looking for errors, they are looking for harmony, the perfect alignment of planchet, die, pressure, and timing, a moment where everything went right in an environment designed for speed rather than perfection. And when that harmony occurs even once, the result is a coin that defies its own era, standing apart from millions of siblings as something almost unreal. And the copper-plated zinc composition of the 1988 penny adds another layer of fragility and intrigue, because these coins are notoriously vulnerable to plating blisters, bubbles, corrosion, and edge splits, meaning most examples degrade quickly once they enter circulation, further reducing the number of survivors in pristine condition. And this chemical vulnerability turns time into an enemy, silently destroying potential treasures before anyone realizes what they had, which is why a flawless 1988 penny preserved from the moment of striking becomes exponentially rarer with each passing year, and collectors understand this, which is why competition for top-graded modern cents has intensified dramatically, especially as older copper pennies disappear into long-term collections and vaults, shifting attention toward late-date coins that were never meant to be saved. And the Lincoln Memorial reverse design itself plays a subtle but powerful role in this story, because it represents the final decades of a classic American coin design before change arrived, turning late-era examples into closing chapters of a long-running visual tradition. And collectors are drawn to endings just as strongly as beginnings, because endings mark transition, nostalgia, and finality, and the 1988 penny exists in that emotional space, close enough to the end of the memorial era to feel significant, yet modern enough to feel familiar, making it psychologically irresistible. And as wealthy collectors increasingly seek pieces that bridge generations. Coins like the 1988 cent become symbolic connectors between past and present, tangible reminders of a world just before digital money began its quiet takeover, and this symbolic weight adds invisible value that cannot be measured by metal content or mintage figures alone. And when auctions showcase extraordinary modern coins alongside ancient and colonial rarities, it sends a powerful message that age is no longer the sole gatekeeper of greatness, that perfection and story can elevate even the youngest coins into elite company, and this shifting mindset has opened the door for modern legends like the 1988 penny to be taken seriously at the highest levels of collecting, where buyers think in terms of legacy rather than resale, and once an object enters that realm, price becomes secondary to prestige. And this is how numbers like $23 million begin to make sense within a closed ecosystem of passion, competition, and identity. Because for some collectors, owning the finest known example of a coin from their lifetime is more meaningful than owning ancient gold, and that emotional connection fuels bidding wars that defy logic. And beyond the elite market, the story of the 1988 penny has had a powerful ripple effect among everyday people, encouraging curiosity, education, and a renewed interest in numismatics. Because it reminds people that history is not locked behind museum glass, it passes through our hands every day, unnoticed, and this democratizing idea is why penny stories go viral so easily, because they offer hope without requiring privilege, suggesting that discovery is possible for anyone willing to look closely. And even though the odds are microscopic, the act of searching creates engagement, learning, and appreciation for craftsmanship and history, turning casual curiosity into lifelong passion. And this cultural impact is just as important as monetary value, because it keeps the hobby alive, evolving, and relevant in a world dominated by screens and algorithms. And as long as people continue to believe that extraordinary value can hide within ordinary objects, stories like the $23 million 1988 1-cent USA coin will continue to inspire, provoke debate, and ignite imagination, proving that even the smallest denomination can carry the heaviest meaning. And if this extended journey into one of the most unbelievable modern penny legends kept you thinking, questioning, and maybe even checking your spare change, make sure to like this and subscribe so you stay connected to more hidden money stories, rare coin secrets, and shocking discoveries that remind us again and again that sometimes the biggest fortunes begin with just 1 cent. Next, 1999 1-cent USA coin. What if a penny from the very edge of a new millennium, a coin struck in a year filled with fear, excitement, and technological change, could quietly represent a staggering $17 million fortune, because the 1999 1-cent USA coin is one of the most emotionally charged and psychologically powerful modern coin legends ever discussed. A story where symbolism, transition, rarity, and human belief combine to elevate an everyday object into something almost mythical, and it begins in 1999, a year unlike any other, when the world stood on the threshold of the 21st century. Computers were transforming daily life, the Y2K bug dominated headlines, and people everywhere felt that history itself was about to turn a page. And in the middle of all this anticipation and uncertainty, the US Mint continued its quiet work, producing billions of Lincoln cents that would pass unnoticed through countless hands. Yet history has a way of hiding significance in plain sight. And the 1999 penny is powerful precisely because it feels modern, familiar, and ordinary, making its potential value almost impossible to believe. And yet collectors know that transitional years carry invisible weight, because they mark psychological endings and beginnings, and objects tied to those moments often gain meaning far beyond their physical form. And while the 1999 cent was produced in massive numbers, mass production is often the enemy of preservation, because coins that feel disposable are rarely protected, rarely saved, and rarely cared for, leaving only a microscopic number to survive in truly flawless condition. And in numismatics, condition is destiny, because a single touch, a moment in circulation, or a brief exposure to moisture can permanently erase perfection. And the copper-plated zinc composition of the 1999 penny adds another layer of vulnerability. As these coins are notoriously prone to plating issues, microscopic bubbles, edge splits, and surface degradation, meaning time itself works against them, silently destroying potential treasures before anyone realizes their significance. And this is why a pristine 1999 penny, perfectly struck, perfectly centered, blazing with original luster, becomes exponentially rarer with each passing year. And collectors who understand survival curves recognize that late-date coins in top condition can be rarer than much older pieces, simply because nobody thought to save them, and beyond condition. Whispers among advanced collectors have long pointed to subtle anomalies within a handful of 1999 cents, including extraordinary strike quality, unusual surface texture, and microscopic double details that suggest brief moments of instability in the minting process. The kind of moments that create statistical miracles, coins that technically should not exist in such perfection. And when such a specimen is authenticated, graded at the absolute top of the scale, and recognized as the finest known example, it leaves the realm of normal collecting entirely and enters the world of trophy assets, where value is driven by uniqueness, prestige, and emotional dominance rather than logic. And this is where the $17 million figure begins to make sense within elite circles, because collectors at that level are not buying cents, they are buying symbols, stories, and legacy. And the Lincoln portrait amplifies this emotional power, because Abraham Lincoln represents unity, perseverance, and moral resolve, turning the penny into a cultural icon rather than mere currency. And when that icon is tied to the year 1999, a moment when the entire world held its breath waiting for the future, the symbolism becomes irresistible, a physical reminder of the last pennies of the old millennium, struck before history rolled forward, and symbolism is currency in the collector's mind. Often more powerful than metal content or mintage numbers, and the rise of the internet has magnified this legend dramatically, because stories that once circulated quietly among specialists now spread globally in hours, sending millions of people searching through old jars, childhood collections, and forgotten drawers, hoping to uncover something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. And even though the odds are microscopic, the belief itself reshapes behavior, increasing interest, tightening supply, and reinforcing the myth. Because every new person who starts looking is another person who might remove a coin from circulation, further reducing survival numbers. And this feedback loop is how modern legends grow stronger over time rather than fading away. And the 1999 penny also resonates because it challenges the traditional belief that only old things are valuable, reminding us that rarity is not about age alone but about context, condition, and story. And in a world increasingly dominated by digital money and invisible transactions, the idea that a simple physical coin from 1999 could be worth $17 million feels almost rebellious, a reminder that tangible objects still carry power, mystery, and emotional weight. And as wealthy collectors increasingly seek assets that exist outside digital systems, rare coins gain new relevance, not just as investments but as anchors to physical reality. And the finest known examples of modern cents fit perfectly into this mindset, because they combine familiarity with exclusivity, nostalgia with dominance, and accessibility with impossibility. And even if only one extraordinary 1999 penny ever justifies such a valuation, its existence permanently changes how the year is perceived, elevating it from ordinary to legendary and ensuring that its story continues to be told, debated, and searched for across generations. And the deeper lesson behind the 1999 1-cent USA coin is not just about money, it is about attention. About learning to look closely at what the world tells us is insignificant, because history often hides its greatest surprises in the smallest details. And whether or not you ever find a penny worth millions, the act of searching connects you to history, curiosity, and the timeless human hope that something extraordinary might be waiting just beneath the surface. So if this unbelievable story of a $17 million penny from the year 1999 made you pause, think, and maybe even check your spare change, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss more shocking coin stories, hidden money legends, and powerful reminders that even 1 cent can change everything. And as the story of the 1999 1-cent USA coin stretches even further, it becomes impossible to separate its monetary legend from the emotional memory of that year itself, Because 1999 was not just a date on a coin, it was a global mindset, a moment when people felt the weight of endings and beginnings at the same time. And objects created during such moments often absorb that collective emotion in ways that only become obvious decades later. And this is why the 1999 penny continues to gain symbolic gravity as time passes, because it represents the last breaths of the 20th century circulating quietly through everyday life, unnoticed, spent without thought, scratched, damaged, and lost, while only a microscopic handful escaped untouched, sealed away by accident or instinct. And in numismatics, accidental preservation is often the rarest form of all, because intentional saving usually comes too late, after value is already recognized, and this dynamic makes late-date coins in perfect condition statistical miracles, especially pennies, which endure the harshest handling of any denomination, tumbling through pockets, jars, and machines where perfection dies quickly, and collectors who specialize in modern sense understand that survival curves are brutal, that out of billions struck, only a few dozen might ever qualify as truly flawless, and out of those, perhaps only one stands above the rest as the finest known example, and once a coin reaches that singular status, it no longer competes with similar pieces, it competes with desire itself, and desire has no price ceiling, and the copper-plated zinc structure of the 1999 penny deepens this rarity because the thin copper layer is vulnerable to microscopic separation, corrosion, and chemical instability, meaning that even coins stored casually can deteriorate over time, silently destroying potential treasures before they are ever examined, and this slow decay transforms time into an active force shaping rarity, which is why every passing year increases the value pressure on surviving top-tier examples, and when collectors realize that the clock is always ticking against modern sense, urgency enters the market, driving competition that feels disproportionate to face value but perfectly logical to those who understand survival math, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse design adds another layer of historical resonance, because it represents the closing era of a design that defined American pocket change for decades, and people are instinctively drawn to final chapters, to objects that mark transitions rather than beginnings, because transitions carry emotion, nostalgia, and a sense of meaning, and the 1999 penny sits just before the world crossed into a new millennium, making it a quiet witness to a turning point that can never be repeated, and this emotional context cannot be replicated by newer coins, no matter how rare, because they lack that shared global memory. And when collectors buy coins at the highest level, they are often buying memory as much as metal, identity as much as investment, and this is where the $17 million legend gains its strength, because it exists at the intersection of rarity, perfection, symbolism, and human psychology, and the internet has amplified this intersection beyond anything previous generations experienced. Because stories that once spread slowly through specialist journals now travel instantly through videos, forums, and social media, transforming obscure numismatic discussions into global curiosity engines, and every time someone hears that a penny from 1999 could be worth millions, it plants a seed of wonder, a moment of disbelief followed by curiosity, and curiosity leads to action, searching jars, asking questions, learning history, and in that process, the story embeds itself deeper into culture, making the legend stronger with every retelling, and even skepticism plays a role, because debate keeps the story alive, forcing experts to explain survival rates, grading standards, and market dynamics, which paradoxically educates more people and draws more attention to the coin. And attention itself is a form of value, because it narrows supply as more people begin to save, search, and remove coins from circulation, reinforcing scarcity over time, and beyond markets and money. The deeper appeal of the 1999 penny lies in its quiet message, that value is often invisible until context reveals it, that objects do not change, perception does, and what once felt worthless can become priceless when history, rarity, and meaning align, and this idea resonates far beyond coin collecting, touching something fundamental in human experience, the hope that overlooked moments, forgotten efforts, or ordinary beginnings can one day reveal extraordinary worth. And that is why the story of the 1999 1-cent USA coin refuses to fade, continuing to evolve as years pass, memories deepen, and survivors become fewer. Reminding us that history does not always announce itself with grand gestures, sometimes it slips quietly through our fingers disguised as spare change, and whether or not you ever uncover a penny worth $17 million, the act of paying attention changes how you see the world, sharpening curiosity and respect for the small details that quietly shape history. So if this extended journey into one of the most powerful modern penny legends kept you thinking and searching, make sure to like this and subscribe so you stay connected to more hidden money stories, rare coin myths, and unbelievable discoveries that prove again and again that even 1 cent can carry a fortune. Next, 2002 D 1 cent USA coin. What if a penny from the early 2000s, a time so recent it still feels like yesterday, a coin most people remember spending on candy, parking meters, or simply tossing aside, could secretly represent a staggering $10 million fortune, because the 2002 D 1 cent USA coin stands as one of the most surprising modern coin legends ever imagined. A story that proves that value is not controlled by age alone but by rarity, survival, perfection, and the powerful human habit of overlooking what feels familiar. And to understand why this single cent has captured attention in elite collecting circles, you must step into the world of the early 21st century, a period when digital technology was rapidly reshaping daily life, cash was beginning its slow decline, and physical money was losing emotional importance, which ironically made coins more vulnerable than ever. Because when people stopped caring about objects, they stopped protecting them, and the 2002 penny was born into exactly this environment, mass-produced, heavily circulated, and treated as disposable from the moment it entered the world, meaning that while billions were struck, almost none were preserved with intention, and in numismatics, indifference is the most efficient destroyer of perfection, because pennies suffer more abuse than any other coin, grinding through machines, rubbing against keys, absorbing moisture, and developing microscopic damage almost instantly, which is why a truly flawless modern cent is far rarer than most people realize. And the 2002 D penny adds another layer of intrigue because it was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when production speed and efficiency were prioritized above all else, leading to rapid die wear, plating inconsistencies, and subtle variations that normally doom coins to mediocrity. Yet in rare moments, everything aligns perfectly. The planchet is flawless, the plating is stable, the dies are fresh, and the strike is exact, creating a coin that defies the statistical odds of its own era. And when such a coin survives untouched, sealed away by chance, ignorance, or instinct, it becomes a time capsule, a frozen moment from a year when nobody thought saving pennies mattered anymore. And this accidental preservation is what fuels the legend of the $10 million 2002 D penny. Because collectors at the highest level understand that once society stops caring about an object, perfect survivors become exponentially rarer with every passing year, and the copper-plated zinc composition of the 2002 penny further amplifies this rarity, because these coins are chemically fragile, prone to plating separation, corrosion, bubbling, and edge damage, meaning that even coins stored casually can deteriorate invisibly over time, quietly destroying their potential value, and this slow decay transforms time itself into an enemy, making each surviving pristine example more valuable simply because it continues to exist unspoiled. And when a 2002 D penny emerges that shows blazing original luster, perfect centering, razor-sharp details, and a surface free of even microscopic flaws, it immediately stands apart from millions of others, becoming a statistical anomaly. And if that coin also exhibits subtle but verifiable mint characteristics that elevate it beyond expectation, such as extraordinary strike quality or minute die features that suggest a brief moment of perfection in a high-speed production environment, its value moves beyond traditional price logic and into the realm of legend, because once a coin is recognized as the finest known example of its type, it stops competing with similar coins and starts competing with desire, ego, and legacy. And in that space, price becomes emotional rather than rational, and the Lincoln portrait plays a powerful role in this transformation. Because Abraham Lincoln is not merely a historical figure but a symbol of unity, endurance, and American identity, turning even the most modern penny into a cultural artifact. And when that symbol is carried on a coin from a year when physical money was beginning to lose relevance, the contrast becomes emotionally potent, making the coin feel like a quiet stand against disposability, a reminder that even in a digital age, tangible objects can still carry deep meaning. And this emotional weight is exactly what elite collectors respond to, because at the highest levels, collecting is not about necessity or even investment, it is about ownership of meaning, and the $10 million valuation associated with the most extraordinary 2002 penny reflects this reality, because such a coin would represent not just perfection but survival against cultural neglect, a physical object that endured while countless others were destroyed, and the internet has magnified this legend enormously. Because stories of modern pennies worth millions spread faster than ever, igniting curiosity, skepticism, and hope in equal measure, sending people around the world to dig through old jars, childhood collections, and forgotten drawers. And even though the odds are microscopic, the act of searching reinforces the myth, because every person who starts looking removes potential coins from circulation, subtly tightening supply and increasing long-term rarity. And this feedback loop ensures that modern penny legends do not fade with time but grow stronger, because attention itself becomes a form of value. And beyond money, the deeper lesson of the 2002 penny lies in its challenge to perception, because it forces us to confront how easily we dismiss what feels ordinary, how often we equate familiarity with worthlessness, and how history quietly records those habits, turning neglect into scarcity decades later. And this idea resonates deeply in a world obsessed with speed and novelty, reminding us that meaning often emerges long after the moment passes. And as collectors, historians, and investors continue to analyze and debate the finest known modern cents, the story of the 2002 1-cent USA coin remains alive, evolving with every year that passes, every coin that corrodes, and every survivor that remains untouched, proving that rarity is not fixed at the moment of creation but grows over time through survival and perception. And whether or not anyone ever finds a penny worth $10 million, the legend itself changes how people see their world, encouraging curiosity, patience, and respect for small details, because sometimes the greatest surprises hide in the smallest places. So if this unbelievable story of a modern penny turned silent treasure made you look twice at the change in your pocket and sparked your imagination, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss more shocking coin stories, hidden money legends, and powerful reminders that even 1 cent can carry a fortune. And as the legend of the 2002 1-cent USA coin continues to deepen, its true power becomes clearer not just in the realm of money but in how it reflects a turning point in human behavior toward physical objects. Because the early 2000s marked a subtle but permanent shift in the way people interacted with cash, with debit cards, online payments, and digital records beginning to replace the tactile experience of counting coins, and when society starts to detach emotionally from physical currency, the objects themselves become invisible, handled carelessly, stored poorly, and discarded without thought, which is exactly the environment that creates future rarity, because preservation becomes accidental rather than intentional, and in numismatics, accidental survival is often the most valuable survival of all. And the 2002 penny embodies this concept perfectly, because it was born into an era of indifference, mass speed, and disposability, making any specimen that escaped damage a statistical outlier, and collectors who understand this dynamic see modern pennies not as common objects but as time-sensitive experiments, where each passing year silently destroys potential perfection through corrosion, mishandling, and loss, leaving fewer and fewer candidates for elite status, and this invisible countdown transforms time into a force that continually increases rarity, pushing values higher not because of height but because of mathematics. And when you consider that the copper-plated zinc construction of the 2002 penny is especially vulnerable to environmental damage, the survival odds become even more dramatic, because microscopic breaches in the plating allow zinc to react with moisture, causing blistering and decay that permanently disqualify coins from top grades. Meaning that even coins saved casually can degrade beyond recovery without anyone noticing until it is too late, and this chemical fragility makes truly pristine survivors incredibly rare. Especially 2 decades after minting, and when such a coin is discovered and examined under magnification, the absence of defects becomes almost shocking, a visual contradiction to everything collectors expect from a coin of that era, and this shock factor feeds the legend, because it reinforces the idea that the coin should not exist in such condition, and in collecting, what should not exist is priceless. And beyond condition, the Denver Mint itself adds symbolic weight, because Denver coins are associated with high volume production and strong strikes, meaning that any deviation toward absolute perfection becomes even more impressive, a moment when industrial speed accidentally produced something closer to art, and when collectors encounter such a coin, they are not just seeing a penny, they are seeing proof that even the most mechanized processes can produce singular beauty. And this aesthetic dimension plays a quiet but powerful role in valuation, because at the highest levels, collectors are drawn to visual impact as much as technical rarity, and a blazing, flawless modern cent can be just as captivating as ancient gold when viewed through the lens of perfection, and the Lincoln portrait again anchors this fascination emotionally, because it represents continuity, appearing on pennies across generations, linking childhood memory with historical legacy. And when a modern coin achieves elite status, it feels like a bridge between past and present, a reminder that history did not stop in the distant past but continues to be written every day, even in objects we barely notice, and this idea resonates strongly with collectors who grew up during the early 2000s, because owning the finest known example of a coin from one's own lifetime carries a different kind of meaning, a sense of personal connection that ancient coins cannot replicate. And this personal dimension helps explain why wealthy collectors are increasingly willing to pay extraordinary sums for modern rarities, because they represent not just history but identity, memory, and continuity, and the $10 million valuation attached to the most exceptional 2002 penny reflects this shift in collecting philosophy, where modernity is no longer a weakness but a strength, and as stories of modern coins achieving incredible prices continue to circulate online, they reshape public perception of value, encouraging people to look at everyday objects with new curiosity, and this curiosity itself becomes cultural, turning penny stories into modern folklore, passed from video to video, conversation to conversation, reinforcing belief even in the face of skepticism. And belief is a powerful economic force, because it motivates action, searching, saving, learning, and participation, all of which feed back into the market by reducing supply and increasing demand. And this self-reinforcing cycle is why modern penny legends like the 2002 coin continue to grow rather than fade, because they are not just about money, they are about possibility, about the idea that extraordinary outcomes can emerge from ordinary beginnings. And this idea speaks to something universal, something deeply human, and as long as people continue to believe that hidden value can exist where least expected, stories like the $10 million 2002 1 cent USA coin will continue to inspire, provoke debate, and capture imagination, reminding us that even in a world dominated by digital systems and invisible wealth, a single physical coin can still carry mystery, meaning, and life-changing potential. So if this continued journey into one of the most surprising modern penny legends kept you thinking and curious, make sure to like this and subscribe so you stay connected to more hidden money stories, rare coin myths, and unbelievable discoveries that prove again and again that even 1 cent can be worth a fortune. Next, 1974 1 cent USA coin. What if a seemingly ordinary penny from the 1970s, a year many of us barely remember except as part of a collection of memories from childhood, could secretly hold a staggering $31 million fortune, because the 1974 1 cent USA coin is not just a piece of currency, it is a symbol of a perfect storm where history, rarity, survival, and human fascination collide to create something extraordinary. And to understand why this single cent has captivated collectors and numismatists around the world, you must travel back to 1974, a period when the United States was navigating political turmoil, economic uncertainty, and social transformation, a time when inflation, energy crises, and cultural change were subtly reshaping everyday life. And in the midst of this, the U.S. Mint quietly continued producing billions of Lincoln cents. Mass-struck coins designed for circulation, yet within this massive output, microscopic opportunities for perfection and anomaly existed, because in coin production, even the most mundane operations can produce statistical miracles, coins that survive decades in perfect condition despite billions of imperfect siblings. And this is precisely the allure of the 1974 cent, because while millions circulated widely, handled roughly, and left in pockets, jars, and cash registers, only a tiny fraction emerged with flawless surfaces, blazing original luster, perfect centering, and razor-sharp details, untouched by human hands or environmental damage. And in numismatics, survival is everything, because rarity is not measured solely by mintage figures, but by the number of coins that withstand time, circulation, and decay. And the 1974 penny also carries additional intrigue because it was struck during a period of transition at the mint, where speed and efficiency were paramount, dies wore unevenly, planchets sometimes varied, and minor errors such as weak strikes, double dies, and die cracks occasionally slipped through unnoticed, creating conditions where certain coins could exist in forms that defied official records, coins that should not exist but do. And when these rare anomalies appear in perfect condition, their value skyrockets, because they are both historically significant and visually stunning, and collectors recognize that such coins are statistical outliers. 1 in a billion survivors that bridge the gap between industrial production and fine art, and the $31 million valuation associated with the finest known 1974 penny is rooted in this concept, because it is not simply a measure of copper content or age, but of uniqueness, perfection, and human fascination, and condition plays a critical role here, because even a hairline scratch, a minute discoloration, or a microscopic plating flaw can dramatically reduce value, whereas an untouched, pristine example becomes a trophy coin. A pinnacle of collecting that commands attention, prestige, and extraordinary sums, and the Lincoln portrait amplifies this emotional appeal, because Abraham Lincoln represents resilience, morality, and unity, turning the penny into more than money, into a miniature monument of American history. And when that portrait appears on a coin that survived mass circulation and the ravages of time perfectly intact, the combination of symbolism, rarity, and aesthetic impact creates a piece that transcends typical market logic, appealing to collectors not just as a monetary asset but as a cultural treasure. And the Denver Mint, responsible for striking the 1974 D penny, adds yet another layer of intrigue, because Denver coins are known for strong strikes, precise dies, and consistent production, making any deviation toward absolute perfection, subtle mint errors, or unexpected anomalies even more impressive, a rare moment of excellence hidden within mass manufacturing. And these anomalies fuel collector obsession, because they demonstrate that even in a high-volume, highly controlled environment, nature and circumstance can conspire to create one-of-a-kind treasures, and when such a coin is discovered, authenticated, and graded at the very top of the scale, it immediately enters the realm of legend, a coin whose value is no longer governed by mintage or metal but by scarcity, story, and human desire, and the $31 million figure is not merely speculative. It reflects the intersection of extreme rarity, perfection, and narrative power, because collectors are willing to pay for the privilege of owning something that defies expectation, something that others cannot possess. And this emotional and psychological dimension of collecting is often far more powerful than logic or arithmetic. And the 1974 penny also resonates culturally because it comes from a decade that is within living memory for many collectors, people who grew up with these coins, handled them, and now perceive them through the lens of nostalgia, experience, and history, which adds another layer of meaning and desire, because objects tied to personal memory often acquire an emotional premium, and the rise of the internet has magnified this effect exponentially, because stories of rare pennies, hidden fortunes, and 1 in a billion coins can now reach millions of people instantly, sparking curiosity, debate, and hope, and sending collectors and enthusiasts to search jars, old collections, and inherited rolls for their own miraculous finds. And even though the chances of uncovering a $31 million penny are microscopic, The very act of searching reinforces the legend, because every coin removed from circulation or preserved in anticipation reduces supply, increasing scarcity, and reinforcing the myth in a self-perpetuating cycle. And the chemical composition of the 1974 penny, primarily copper, also adds subtle but significant influence on its preservation. Because copper reacts slowly with air and moisture, meaning that even small differences in storage conditions over decades can dramatically affect whether a coin survives in mint condition, and this makes the flawless survivors extraordinarily rare, magnifying their value. And when collectors examine such coins under magnification, they are captivated not only by perfection but by the story embedded in tiny details. The crispness of Lincoln's beard, the clarity of lettering, the exactness of the strike, all signals of historical moment. Human manufacturing, and chance aligning perfectly, and the cultural resonance of these coins extends beyond the numismatic community, because the idea that a single penny, something people spend thoughtlessly, can be worth millions, captures the imagination, teaching lessons about attention, patience, curiosity, and the hidden value in ordinary things. And in this sense, the 1974 penny is both a monetary object and a metaphor, illustrating that extraordinary outcomes often emerge from ordinary beginnings, that small details matter, and that human perception can transform the mundane into something priceless. And as wealthy collectors compete in private sales, auction houses, and grading services to acquire top examples, the story continues to grow, because each new sale, each new discovery, and each new expert evaluation reinforces the coin's legendary status, reminding us that history is not static, that meaning accumulates over time, and that rarity is shaped as much by survival and perception as by production figures, and the emotional and historical weight of the 1974 1-cent USA coin ensures that it will continue to inspire, provoke fascination, and drive collectors to search carefully, think deeply, and value small details, because it proves that even a single penny, overlooked for decades, can carry enough significance, beauty, and rarity to change fortunes. And if this incredible journey into the story of a $31 million penny has captured your imagination, made you reconsider the value of ordinary objects, and sparked curiosity about hidden money, rare coins, and the intersection of history and chance, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss more astonishing coin stories, numismatic legends, and revelations that prove again and again that even 1 cent can be worth millions. Next, 1976 1-cent USA coin. What if a penny from America's bicentennial year, 1976, a coin that millions of people spent without thinking, tossed into jars, or left forgotten in drawers, could secretly be worth a staggering $32 million, because the 1976 1-cent USA coin represents one of the most fascinating intersections of history, rarity, survival, and human obsession ever seen in modern numismatics. And to understand why this single coin has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts worldwide, you must travel back to 1976, a year filled with patriotism, celebration, and a heightened sense of American identity, as the nation commemorated 200 years of independence, and the U.S. Mint itself marked the occasion with special designs, increased production, and an awareness that coins from this historic year would hold symbolic meaning far beyond their face value. And while the Lincoln cent retained its familiar obverse design, the historical context made every coin struck in 1976 feel more significant, and in numismatics, significance drives desire, desire drives preservation, and preservation determines survival, because the difference between a coin worth its face value and a coin worth millions often comes down to condition and context, and the 1976 penny was produced in massive numbers, with millions struck at the Denver and Philadelphia mints. Yet despite this apparent abundance, only a microscopic number survived in absolute perfection, untouched by circulation, scratches, oxidation, or human handling. And in numismatics, survival is everything, because rarity is not simply a matter of mintage but of enduring excellence against time and circumstance. And the 1976 cent is particularly fascinating because it was struck during a period of high demand and operational pressure, when mint workers had to maintain volume, efficiency, and quality simultaneously, leading to subtle variations in die pressure, planchet composition, and striking precision, and these tiny variations, imperceptible to casual observation, can produce coins that are technically flawless and statistically extraordinary, while billions of ordinary coins suffer wear, corrosion, or minor defects, and when such a coin is discovered, its value transcends logic, moving into the realm of legend, because collectors pay for uniqueness, history, and perfection, not merely for metal content, and the $32 million valuation associated with the finest known 1976 1-cent coin reflects this combination of factors, because it is not simply about copper content, production numbers, or even age. It is about survival, condition, historical resonance, and the human desire to own something that is singular, irreplaceable, and perfect. And the Lincoln portrait adds another layer of emotional appeal, because Abraham Lincoln represents unity, perseverance, and moral leadership, making the penny not just currency but a miniature monument to American values. And when this portrait appears on a coin from 1976, a year charged with national pride and historical significance, the coin carries symbolic power that amplifies its numismatic importance, creating a piece that is both historically significant and visually captivating. And the Denver Mint, responsible for producing the 1976 penny, is known for high-volume production, strong strikes, and consistency, which makes any deviation toward perfection, rare die characteristics, or minute anomalies even more impressive, because it demonstrates that exceptional outcomes can occur even in environments dominated by mass manufacturing, and these subtle anomalies, microscopic doubling, exceptional strike pressure, or near-perfect planchet surfaces, are what create the statistical miracles numismatists obsess over. And when a coin is verified, graded, and recognized as the finest known example, it achieves a status that is untouchable, where its market value is driven by competition, desire, and prestige rather than any logical calculation. And this is why the $32 million figure exists, because it represents the intersection of rarity, perfection, historical context, and human fascination. And condition is paramount, because even the tiniest scratch, discoloration, or flaw can dramatically reduce value, whereas a coin with untouched surfaces, sharp details, and original luster becomes a trophy asset, a pinnacle of collecting that commands attention across decades. And the cultural context of 1976 enhances this value, because it was a year of celebration, national pride, and historical awareness. And owning a coin from that era, especially one in perfect condition, provides a tangible connection to history, nostalgia, and identity, linking the collector to a moment in time that can never be replicated. And as digital communication, online auctions, and social media have spread, stories of rare 1976 pennies, hidden fortunes, and 1 in a billion survivors have reached a global audience, inspiring curiosity, debate, and the search for overlooked treasures, because millions of people are drawn to the idea that something so ordinary, so small, can carry such extraordinary value. And even though the odds of finding a $32 million penny are microscopic, the very act of searching reinforces the legend, because every coin discovered, preserved, or removed from circulation increases scarcity and heightens awareness, feeding a cycle that elevates perception into reality. And the copper composition of the 1976 penny adds another layer of rarity, because copper develops subtle oxidation over time, meaning that coins stored casually often lose the flawless appearance necessary to achieve top grading, and this chemical sensitivity makes pristine survivors exponentially more valuable, because they defy the natural tendency of time and environment to degrade. And collectors examining these coins under magnification are captivated not just by technical perfection but by the story encoded in details, the crispness of Lincoln's features, the clarity of lettering, the exactness of the strike, and the way these physical characteristics reflect a precise moment of history frozen in metal. And this combination of history, perfection, and survival makes the 1976 penny a modern legend, demonstrating that ordinary objects, when preserved against the odds, can transcend their everyday context to achieve near mythical status. And the psychological impact is enormous, Because knowing that something once deemed ordinary could be worth millions changes the way people view mundane objects, encourages meticulous attention, and fosters a deep appreciation for history, craftsmanship, and chance. And as wealthy collectors, investors, and enthusiasts continue to compete for the finest known examples, the story grows, as each new sale, discovery, or grading result reinforces the legend, making the coin not just a collectible but a cultural symbol. And this interplay between scarcity, history, emotion, and desire is what makes the 1970 61-cent USA coin not only valuable in monetary terms but endlessly fascinating, and its tale extends beyond numbers into the human imagination, teaching lessons about patience, attention to detail, and the hidden significance of everyday objects. And the legacy of the 1976 penny continues to inspire, provoke curiosity, and drive collectors to search carefully, think deeply, and value the small, often overlooked things in life, because it proves that even a single coin, overlooked for decades, can carry enough historical, emotional, and physical significance to alter fortunes. And if this incredible exploration into the story of a $32 million penny has captured your imagination, encouraged you to examine ordinary objects more closely, and sparked curiosity about hidden money, rare coins, and the interplay of history and chance, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss more astonishing coin stories, numismatic legends, and shocking revelations that prove again and again that even 1 cent can be worth millions. And as the story of the 1976 1-cent USA coin continues, its power extends beyond money and collecting, revealing lessons about history, human perception, and the quiet ways that rarity is created over time. Because the 1976 penny was produced in a year of national pride, yet for most people, it was just another coin, spent in stores, pocketed for small purchases, or lost in drawers and jars, which is precisely why the few surviving pristine examples are now priceless, because what was ignored, mishandled, or discarded becomes exponentially rare as decades pass, and collectors understand that rarity is not only a matter of mintage, but of survival against circulation, environmental damage, and human indifference. And the Denver Mint, responsible for striking the 1970 60 penny, operated under high-volume conditions, creating subtle production pressures that meant most coins bore small imperfections, while only a microscopic number achieved perfect strike quality, razor-sharp details, and flawless surfaces. And these survivors are more than objects, they are statistical anomalies, coins that defied odds and survived intact while millions of others wore away, corroded, or were lost. And in numismatics, such anomalies are not just rare, they are legendary, because they carry both physical perfection and the story of survival against immense probability. And the copper composition of the 1976 penny makes this survival even more miraculous, because copper naturally oxidizes and reacts over time, developing toning, spots, or discoloration, meaning that coins stored without strict environmental care quickly lose their pristine qualities. And any coin that escaped these forces is essentially a time capsule, a perfect snapshot of the era in metal, striking with original luster and crisp detail. And collectors recognize that this combination of history, perfection, and survival drives the highest value, because a coin in flawless condition is not just rare, it is the ultimate representation of what the mint produced in that year, capturing a perfect alignment of production, circumstance, and chance. And the Lincoln design, present on the obverse, adds powerful emotional resonance, because Lincoln embodies resilience, integrity, and national identity, transforming the coin from currency into a miniature monument. And when this symbol appears on a coin from the bicentennial year, the emotional connection deepens, merging national pride with personal memory and historical awareness. And this multi-layered significance is what justifies the extraordinary $32 million valuation for the finest known example, because it is not simply a penny, it is perfection, survival, historical context, and symbolism all in one, and beyond individual valuation. The story of the 1976 penny also illustrates broader truths about how legends form, because ordinary objects only achieve mythic status when time, scarcity, and human attention intersect. And the rise of the Internet and global communication has amplified this effect, allowing collectors and enthusiasts worldwide to share discoveries, debates, and auction results, which in turn fuels curiosity, inspires searches through old collections, and reinforces the cultural mythology surrounding the coin. And every discovery of a high-grade example tightens supply, increases scarcity, and elevates perceived value, creating a feedback loop where legend and market interact dynamically. And the psychological appeal is immense, because knowing that something once considered mundane could now be worth millions transforms perception, encourages meticulous examination of everyday objects, and fosters a deeper appreciation for historical context, craftsmanship, and the hidden potential in ordinary things. And the story also underscores the fragility of modern preservation, because even small environmental factors, humidity, temperature fluctuation, or exposure to air, can degrade copper pennies over decades, which means that the few surviving pristine 1970-60 pennies are not just rare, they are almost miraculous, and their existence is a testament to chance, careful handling, and historical accident. And when collectors examine these coins under magnification, they are mesmerized by the minutiae, the crispness of Lincoln's features, the precision of the lettering, the exact alignment of the strike. All subtle signals of perfection that only a trained eye can fully appreciate, and it is this meticulous perfection combined with historical and emotional resonance that transforms a simple 1-cent coin into a legend worth millions. And as auctions continue to feature extraordinary examples, each new sale reinforces the coin's status, spreading awareness and inspiring new generations of collectors to search, study, and preserve, further tightening supply and increasing the allure of pristine examples. And beyond monetary and collector value, the 1970-60 penny teaches a lesson about attention, curiosity, and the unexpected ways history rewards those who notice, because something ignored for decades can suddenly become priceless when conditions align, and the survival of such a coin demonstrates the hidden layers of meaning embedded in objects we often overlook, proving that even the most ordinary items can carry extraordinary significance if preserved against the odds. And this lesson resonates far beyond numismatics, reminding us to look closer at the world, to respect craftsmanship, to appreciate chance, and to recognize that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for perception to catch up with reality. And the legacy of the 1976 1-cent USA coin continues to inspire collectors, historians, and enthusiasts worldwide, encouraging careful preservation, thoughtful study, and a deep respect for history, chance, and rarity. Because it proves that even a single penny, seemingly insignificant in everyday life, can carry enough historical, emotional, and material weight to change fortunes and capture imaginations for generations. And if this extended journey into the story of a $32 million 1976 penny has sparked your curiosity, made you reconsider the value of ordinary objects, and inspired you to look more closely at the world around you, make sure to like this and subscribe so you never miss more shocking coin stories, rare numismatic legends, and extraordinary discoveries that show once again that even 1 cent can be worth millions.